Back in 1999, I rented a video game called Silent Hill, a single-player horror game for the PlayStation 1. You play as a character named Harry Mason, running around a ghost town called Silent Hill, shooting monsters, solving puzzles and mysteries, and looking for your daughter, Cheryl. I became a fan of the game very quickly. In fact, I was such a big fan that I committed a little over a year to making an animated film based on this game. This was a few years before the Hollywood adaptation of Silent Hill released in 2006. And when it comes to video game adaptations, I will say it was not the worst film, because I think we've all seen worse.
Woo! Mamma mia!
So I set out to make my own version of Silent Hill, keeping the same basic storyline from the game, but adding my own spin to it. So let's skim through it all, because it's nearly an hour and a half of unwatchable junk, and I debated of whether or not I should even share this. It's embarrassing, to say the least. This was never meant to be seen by the public eye. It was only for my own amusement along with my friends and family. It's one of those movies that if you sat through the entire thing, you'd be awarded some Medal of Honor for bravery and courage. Let's just say I had more ambition to make this movie than I did animation skills. And to this day, I still do. I haven't learned a thing in 20 years. More obsession than talent. And it's not only the animation that is bad, the picture quality itself is awful, just ugly AF. But why? Because the only copy I have of this movie is from a VHS tape that I recorded it onto back in 2002. On top of that, it was compressed poorly with bad compression settings because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't have time to worry about frame rates or resolutions. All I cared about was, is there picture and sound? Okay, good enough. Ship it. So let's look at these two stories of Silent Hill, looking at the similarities and the differences between my version and the game, not to watch the entire film, but to get an overview. So it begins. It's a dark, eerie night. Here we are, Harry Mason, driving with his daughter on a dark mountain road. According to the dialogue in the game, they were going on vacation. Where? I don't know. A motorcycle cop passes him, and this is exactly how the game starts out, except Harry is driving a Jeep in the game, which is a normal vehicle, and in my movie he's driving something very different. Haven't you seen one of these vehicles on the road? It's the new Tesla model. So Harry sees a woman in the road, he swerves out of the way to avoid hitting her and presumably crashes his vehicle. He wakes up and realizes his daughter is missing. Oh no. He gets out and begins his search of this ghost town. I mean, these two shots don't even compare, right? So anyway, Harry spots his daughter Cheryl in the distance, but oddly enough, she runs away and he chases after her. What's going on here?
Cheryl, stop!
One of the best parts about these games is the cheesy dialogue and the bad acting.
Cheryl? Is that Cheryl?
And yes, I pretty much stole every line from this game, almost word for word.
Where are you going? Hey, wait! Stop!
So as Harry continues to run after Cheryl, the evil darkness engulfs the town, and this is when the evil creatures and demons are supposed to come out. In the game, Harry finds himself in this dark alley, getting attacked by all these scary creatures. In my movie, well, some guy in a tuxedo holding a sword just hits him over the head.
Hey, move! I need to find my daughter.
Plus, this guy is my own addition to the film, not in the game. And we'll find out who he is later. Like anyone cares. So Harry is knocked out or whatever. Again, he wakes up. He looks to be in a diner. This giant blue object is supposed to be a couch, I guess. So now we meet Sybil Bennett, a police officer who saved Harry. A lot of the dialogue, again, is exactly the same as in the game.
What's your name?
Harry. Harry Mason.
Sybil Bennett. I'm a police officer from Brams, the next town over.
What's your name?
Harry Mason.
Sybil Bennett. I'm an officer from Brams, the next town over. I'm going back to call in some reinforcements.
To save myself hours of time animating lip syncing, I would just use a freeze frame and let the dialogue play, sometimes using the same clip 2 or 3 times. So they talk about the town, the scary creatures that inhabit it. Harry eventually gets up to leave. Sybil offers him a gun because it's dangerous out there, obviously. And this handoff is just flawless. It's just great. So Harry finds a map of Silent Hill in the diner, and it's the exact same map as in the game.
Could Cheryl be heading for the school?
And just like in the game, he suspects that his daughter, Cheryl, has headed toward the school.
She's at the school.
Also, the Hollywood film stayed true to this as well, which was pretty cool. So Harry heads to the school. Here the darkness returns. We go through the school looking at different things. He enters a music room. There's blood on the keys of this piano and that freaking cat.
Get back here, you feline.
It was inspired from the game. There was a cat in the school in one of the lockers, and it was a nice jump scare. But I enjoyed my version more because the cat had attitude. Yeah, that was not intentional. So Harry enters the classroom. He meets a guy named Clay, who was actually like Harry's guardian angel. This was the guy who hit him with the sword in the beginning. He warns Harry about the town and the darkness, giving him hints about his daughter. Harry wanders the school a bit more. Scary things happen. He gets to this room, and his hand is on the table, and what unfolds is just cinematic gold.
What's this? Whoa. Oh! Get off me! No!
And yes, that giant glass pyramid-shaped thingy was supposed to be a light. Very common in classrooms nowadays. I'm sure you've seen them. The darkness leaves. Harry sees this woman. She fades away. We don't know what that is yet. It ties in with the movie later, but that also happened in the game. Then he hears church bells in the distance. He follows the sound of the church bells and runs to the church to find a woman named Dahlia Gillespie. She is quite the creepy one.
Were you the one ringing the bell?
Yes, I knew they would come, but I didn't expect it to shoot.
Good grief. We get more dialogue about the darkness that devours the town, and Harry continues to ask more questions, and once again, people always seem to be getting away from him before he can get the answers that he needs.
Goodbye.
Wait, don't go yet.
Wait! Don't go yet!
So this is the part in the film that it begins to stray from the game. So Harry finds a poem in the church, and he reads it while we look at a still frame, but you can't make out a single word on this piece of paper because the compression and resolution is so bad. The name of the poem is Under Lock and Key, so Harry leaves and goes to a motel called Underlock Motel. Also, you can see the insertion marker for the text in whatever program I typed this out in. It made it onto the motel sign. So Harry goes into the motel. Apparently out of this entire ghost town, this place still has someone working here. He tries to charge him a lot more than what Harry is willing to pay, but when Harry shows him this poem that he found in the church, the motel attendant guy immediately backtracks and says it's free.
You're in room 233 on the second floor. Here's your key. Have a nice night.
What's the charge?
It's free.
Thank you, sir.
I think I tried to think of a reason why this poem would cause this guy to decide to give him a free motel room, but I didn't think of a good reason, so I just said forget it. No one will know why. It's just going to be a mystery. Harry goes to sleep in his free motel room. Later that night, Cheryl shows up to the front desk, seemingly possessed, and this whole thing happens.
Hold on. What's your name, sweetheart?
Front desk. Hello?
And you know, another really weird thing about this movie is the music selection. There's music from old Final Fantasy games, Enya, Rob Zombie, The Doors, to Resident Evil. and other super obscure sources that have no relation to one another. Like this next part, the music is straight from Super Metroid for SNES. Gee, I wonder how many copyright claims I'm gonna get on this video.
Done.
So Harry goes outside looking for Cheryl. He notices the light at the hospital in the distance, and yeah, that is supposed to be a hospital with a light on. It's just cubes. But Harry doesn't get too far because he falls right to sleep on a bench right outside the motel he was just staying at. This causes me to assume Harry is narcoleptic. I assume if I saw a dead body of someone I was just talking to recently, I wouldn't be able to sleep easily, let alone on a rickety old bench outside in the cold where I've been seeing monsters roaming around. Oh well, he's over it. The next morning, Sybil runs into Harry as he wakes up on that comfy bench. They go to a cafe and have breakfast at a diner, or maybe it's IHOP, I don't know. They talk about Harry's past and how him and his wife found Cheryl as a baby abandoned on the side of the road. Harry's wife died of a mysterious disease at some point, blah blah blah. And the shots of this cafe, there's too much to point out. It's just mind-boggling. I don't even know where to begin. So after a healthy breakfast, Harry asks Sybil permission to steal a vehicle so he can drive it around town. He drives off towards the hospital because that light was on the prior night. He better go check it out. On the way, he sees a woman lying in the road and nearly hits her. He goes outside to check on her, takes her to the hospital. We find out her name is Lisa, and this goes back to the game. Lisa was a nurse at the hospital and was always afraid of the hospital and what had been going on, hearing strange things in the basement.
Why do you seem so scared?
The noises, they're all around. They come from the basement and it scares me every night till I begin to cry.
At some point, there's a gunshot in another room.
Stay here, Lisa.
Yes, I will.
And this is where we meet Dr. Kaufman.
I'm real, man, don't worry. The name's Harry Mason.
And again, this is exactly how he's introduced in the game.
Hold it! Stop! Don't shoot!
He shoots at Harry, startled, and yes, that bullet hole in the wall is casting a shadow. You haven't heard of that?
What?
Dr. Kaufman and Harry talk about stuff. Harry notices a picture of Cheryl on the wall, weirdly enough. And he's like, what the flip?
Hey, wait a minute. What? Why do you have a picture of this girl?
So we get more backstory nonsense on how Dahlia Gillespie is Cheryl's real mother, and she abandoned her as a baby, and that's where Harry and his wife eventually found her. Dahlia's ex-husband Dennis is living in the basement or mortuary of this hospital, and Dr. Kaufman is unable to kill him because of an experimental chemical that was poured onto him a long time ago that was supposed to kill him, but ended up just making him invincible. This is such a convoluted mess of a story combined with just awful visuals. Look at the framing of this beautiful shot. God dang it. So whatever. Dr. Kaufman leaves and tells Harry not to go to the basement. God, why would he want to in the first place? So to keep things moving, the darkness comes back and Harry goes to Lisa and she's just scared again.
Harry, where have you been? I was so scared. I went to go visit the doctor, but he left. You're in this world too?
Yeah,
They come from the basement and it scares me.
it's okay. I'll go check it out.
I went down there.
In order to be a hero, Harry enters the basement. Oh, we didn't see that coming. And he meets Dennis, the ex-husband of Dahlia, and first impressions are not pleasant.
Hey, mister, you want out?
Get out of here, it'll be my next meal. My God, you look yummy. Nice slab of beef on those thighs.
Oh, hey, get the hell! Get the heck off! Get away! Hey, who closed the door? Hey, open the door. When will he ever stop?
So Dennis has knocked Harry out and straps him to a guillotine. A guillotine at the hospital, that's something you don't see every day. Or maybe you do, depending on where you live. So Dennis lectures Harry about his life, and God is it boring, and telling him he needs medication. Dr. Kaufman finally interferes on the conversation and saves Harry from getting his head chopped.
Kaufman, get me out of here.
If you would have listened to me, you wouldn't be here, Harry.
Please, your boyfriend.
So the darkness goes away again, and Harry questions why Kaufman doesn't help Dennis, and Dr. Kaufman says he's getting back at him for what his daughter did to this town. Then we meet Eric, a new character, not in the game, as he just floats into the room, and I mean that literally. He just floats with his purple pants. They talk about nothing, pretty much. Eric is just another doctor that assists Dr. Kaufman. They go into another room, and this patient is acting strange, so Dr. Kaufman gives him a shot.
Hey!
He's not gonna make it. The serum doesn't work that fast. It takes at least an hour.
No.
That doesn't seem to work, and it just ends up smothering him.
You big couple of jerk!
It was never explained who this guy was, what was wrong with him, why he had to be smothered, because that's totally humane. Oh yeah, so the sign behind Eric is backwards for some reason, because who cares? It's a movie and we don't have time to make sure things are correct. Just keep going. There is no QC. Harry inquires what the doctors injected into this guy, and they explain that it makes someone feel more relaxed and less afraid. So Harry asks for some of whatever it is to give to Lisa in the other room to calm her nerves. So Harry goes back to Lisa, and she is shirtless, and she's sitting next to a bomb. There's no time to save her. She's committed to blowing this place up. Harry needs to get the hell out of there.
Goodbye, Lisa.
Save me from them. Please. Harry?
Kaufman!
What are you talking about?
There's no time for
Harry,
games.
what are you doing?
Heck out of here!
Lisa.
Goodbye, Harry.
After the mayhem, Dr. Kaufman, after falling 3 stories out of a hospital, drives off with Harry together to meet Sybil, because at some point she said she was going to go check things out at a lake. And then we get this scene where the doctor is talking to Harry about who cares. Multiple of the same shots were used over and over again. Lip syncing was thrown out the window. It's just like, let's get through this. At one point, Harry looks like he's driving 400 miles an hour. The freaking mountains are floating above the ground in the background. It's like, oh, God. Yep. They eventually arrive at their destination, which is in the snow now. Because, I don't know if we're in the same town or not. Then we meet Emily, another new character, an elderly woman who owns this cabin with very, very bright turquoise windows and huge stepping stones. They all have dinner that night, which is just a flat image of a chicken pot pie, I guess that's what it is. None of this was in the game. This was all original, but Dr. Kaufman takes us onto a little flashback sequence describing what happened to Silent Hill, about how Cheryl developed powers and her mom, Dahlia, used these abilities to get rid of everyone in the town because she was teased. Then he goes into the story about how he spotted Dennis outside his office one day and assumed he was going to use Cheryl to make the darkness, so he shoots him in the back in order to stop him. He then goes outside and tries to fight him.
I believe I'm supposed to be read my Miranda rights. Now,
And after he wins, he throws Dennis into the basement, as we've already established. Then Dr. Kaufman takes baby Cheryl in a limo, of all things, to a desolate area where he abandons her, thinking she'll never make darkness again. Her darkness-making days are over, or so he thought. Sybil is so flustered by the whole thing that her bicep rips through her police badge. Anyway, Emily offers her guest room to Dr. Kaufman and Harry for the night. They play pool and talk about Cheryl and the same stuff we've already heard. This is the scene that could have been cut, except when we get to our next breadcrumb, which is Harry spotting a lighthouse off in the distance through the window. He sees the light, so he's like, we should go check that out tomorrow. Once again, any light in the building, Harry is going to go investigate it. So the next morning they wake up and the two of them, go to the lighthouse, and on the way they get cut off by Dennis, who's driving out in front of them in a Jeep. And my favorite part of the movie unfolds, this ridiculous chase sequence.
It's Dennis. Reverse.
Go through this tunnel, firing shot after shot. There's a cliff up ahead, so Dr. Kaufman tells Harry to floor it, and maybe they can jump the cliff. Yeah, what is this, speed?
Everybody hold on!
I'm in danger!
This isn't Hollywood, but nothing is impossible for Harry. He cranks that thing up to 140 miles an hour. And amazingly gets over this cliff. Oh, and so does Dennis in a Jeep. Just no problem. Just, gosh, it's easier than I thought. So Dennis eventually stops at the top of this hill and he fires down on Harry and Kaufman. The rest just leaves you on the edge of your seat.
Let go, Dennis! Let go! Let's drop together. Stop! Go! Harry! What?
Give me my gun!
I can't do it! God!
Let's have one last scream before you die.
You're laughing up, you bastard!
After flipping off Dennis, Kaufman climbs up the vehicle and uses a winch from the Jeep to pull the car back up. It's not easy though. I mean, getting that car to leap over that cliff was a piece of cake compared to this. Eventually, they're back to normal, and as Kaufman works on the vehicle, Harry sees Clay again. You remember him, the guardian angel. He gives Harry some insights into Kaufman, asking if he can really be trusted, telling him that Kaufman wrongfully assumed Dennis was going to use Cheryl to make that darkness that one day that he shot him. But in reality, He was going to get rid of her for good because he was not in favor of her making the darkness. Only her mother Dahlia was.
Start being a little bit more careful around Kaufman. He has a sad habit of misjudging people.
So Harry confronts Kaufman about it.
You're gonna take sides with Dennis now? Is that it?
Why not? He's on our side, Kaufman. If you would just talk to him rather than busting out a gun every time you see him.
You are not going to change my mind towards Dennis. Nobody can. If you want to stop me from destroying him, just try.
Now, if you would just...
End of discussion.
Kaufman and Harry get over their spat, drive to a gun store to get some weapons. They continue to the lighthouse, they get up to the top, and they get a phone call from Dahlia. She says they are nearby, so Kaufman leaves Harry.
You're on your own now. I can't afford to be slowed down anymore. I'm sorry. Good luck to you.
Kaufman, I need you to be there if we find Dahlia. What about Cheryl? I don't know this place like you do. What am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? Kaufman!
Idiot!
He reaches a point of helplessness and contemplates suicide, but his guardian angel Clay stops him and saves the day.
You won't do it.
Clay.
He lectures him about life and how he has a reason to live. He tells him to look out beyond the fog. Suddenly, Harry has hope because he sees Cheryl across the lake.
God, please let it be her.
Well, by God, perfect timing, Clay. You saved his life. So he goes outside and jumps into a canoe that's nearby and starts his way towards the mansion or whatever. This idea was taken from the Silent Hill 2 video game where you have to paddle across a lake to get to a hotel. Instead of a hotel, obviously it's a mansion, so Harry enters and he meets Sybil again.
Sybil.
Well, she just happens to be in all these places they're running into, don't they? Oh my gosh, it's amazing. So Harry wanders into another room after they speak, and
Oh, God! Oh, jeez.
That's an attempt at a jump scare, I guess. Harry looks out of a window for a bit and notices a cat. The same cat from the school, Attitude Cat. Then notices this woman, also the same woman that was at the school and disappeared. Finds out her name is Alessa, and we don't quite know who she is at this point, but she might have seen Cheryl.
You know something, tell me.
And then Kaufman comes in, because he's got so many questions, and he's very abrasive.
Who are you?
Kaufman, it's okay.
Shut up, Harry.
That's unfortunate. No cats were harmed in the making of this crappy film. Harry and Kaufman leave the room and have a big argument about what's going on exactly.
What the hell do you want?
You son of a bitch. You no good damn bitch.
Harry questions whether Kaufman is on the right side, who is to be trusted, so on and so forth. Sybil shows up and is like, what the flip is going on here? The three of them split up and continue deeper into the mansion. Harry eventually meets Dahlia and Cheryl sitting there. Whoa, this is a family reunion. And again, a lot of the dialogue is the same from the end of the game in the game.
Where's Cheryl?
Can't you see? She's right there.
That's absurd. I'm in no mood for jokes.
No mood for jokes.
Don't you see? She's right there.
That's absurd.
Eventually, Kaufman shows up too, and then Alessa fades into the scene, and Dahlia explains that Alessa exists in Cheryl. She's the demon that gives Cheryl the ability to create this darkness. Everything makes total sense now. Then out of nowhere, Eric shows up. Remember Eric? The guy whose only crime up to this point was wearing bright purple pants? Well, he switched sides and now he works for Dahlia because she has so much power. Oh my god. And then he goes up to explain that he gave the bomb to Lisa in the hospital and told her it was the only way to get rid of the bad things in the hospital and relieve her pain. What a twist. What a twisted individual as well. Good grief. Then Sybil shows up and it's just an all-out brawl.
Freeze! What in the devil's name?
Freeze, damn it! All hail the darkness!
Run!
What the hell?
Kaufman chases Eric to the music from the Matrix soundtrack, you know, in order to best match the style of previous sounds from Super Metroid. It makes sense. So they end up, in a kitchen and continue to fight. At a certain point, we go from Matrix music to music from the movie Dark City, along with odd, jerky motions that resemble fighting. Kaufman overpowers Eric at a certain point, shoots him in the head, and then Dennis shows up, and there's more fighting that happens. People just popping up all over the place. Kaufman wins again, the darkness disappears. Harry sees Kaufman down this long hallway, and Kaufman is dead. Dennis killed him. After all that.
Hell yeah!
He shouldn't have made him invincible.
Don't shoot.
Go get your daughter, Harry.
Dahlia.
We are back in the main room. Dennis chases Sybil into the room, and Dahlia comes face to face with her ex-husband after all these years.
Where have you been all these years? Don't come any closer. She'll kill you. Stop it, Dennis. Stop it.
And that's it. She's dead, just like that, gone. Alessa throws Dennis, and this final battle happens.
Shoot it.
Oh, that was easy. Dennis runs and picks up Cheryl. Harry tries to stop him.
Stop!
Harry!
He meets them outside and pleads with Dennis to let her go. He explains that he knows Kaufman was in the wrong and it was all just a huge misunderstanding. Moral of the story is don't assume anything, especially if you're going to attempt to kill somebody. So Harry is able to reason with Dennis.
There's a mean lady and she said bad things.
I know, honey, it's over. Thank you. I'm very sorry about before.
Don't worry about it.
After all the chaos, the shooting, the fighting, the explosions, what does he think? Don't worry about it. Perfect. He has to be the most forgiving person on this planet.
What happened?
It's okay. Everything's fine now.
Where's that guy?
He's gone.
Oh.
This is Cheryl, my daughter.
Hi, Cheryl. I'm Sybil.
This is going to make an interesting story. Come on. Let's go home.
So it's a happy day. They reunite with Sybil, and they all go home and walk off into the distance to the sounds of Enya. So that's it. That's the movie, created nearly 20 years ago, taking about 14 months to complete. It may very well be the first and crappiest Silent Hill movie ever made that has yet to be shown to the world until now. I will say though, At the time, I was having a lot of fun making it, sometimes paying coworkers at my job to take my shifts just so I could stay home and work on it. I actually did plan to make a sequel for this around that time, but things changed, and I'm glad that I didn't make a sequel. In the end, I would say it was good practice.
Ha 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 ha!